A reminder that Unfound has accounts on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and the X, also known as Twitter. Clinton Thomas Sr. was a 70-year-old from Dustin, Oklahoma. He had several children and loved fixing cars. On August 4th, 2018, Clinton got together with another man to exchange a dune buggy for a Jeep. That night, someone was allegedly seen leaving Clinton's truck in a Weleetka church parking lot. He was never seen again. I'm Ed Denzel, and this is Unfound. Despite what the general public and Hollywood may think about disappearances, I think we've shown on Unfound that cases arising from business dealings are somewhat rare. Yet, I suppose we could say that the work we do with each other constitutes relationships, and relationships are the number one cause of disappearances. So allow me to be a little more succinct on the topic. Disappearances arising from business connections are the least common of relation type of case. Are you confused? Well, here are some Unfound examples. John Spira. Some people think his business partner caused his disappearance. Nicholas Masucci. There are reasons to think he went missing due to his organized crime connections. Stephen Kocher. There are reasons to believe he went to Las Vegas for a business opportunity. And there may be a few more examples in Unfound's catalog. An interesting point, though. Even if I were to include illegal business dealings, that only adds a couple more to the list. Well, with Clinton Thomas Sr., he met another man to exchange vehicles, and they went to a couple different locations in the process. Then Clinton went missing. What happened at these trading places? And now a summary of the case. This disappearance is not on my friend Megan Linez's website, charlieproject.org, but it is on NAMUS. I didn't know Clinton Thomas Sr., but what I've gotten to know about him, he seems like what anyone would think about a man who lived in Oklahoma. Clinton was hardworking. He was self-sufficient. Clinton had many children and taught them the right values. He liked to tinker around with machines, mainly cars and trucks. And that's how Clinton eventually got into making money by selling and trading these vehicles. The only downside was that Clinton allowed parts to collect on his property, which ticked off his neighbors. And this was one of the reasons Clinton was in the process of moving at the time of his disappearance. So, on August 4th, 2018, Clinton met with a man, William Dinscore, who had been introduced to Clinton through mutual friends. Clinton and William agreed to exchange Clinton's dune buggy for William's Jeep. William says he showed up at Clinton's and trailered the dune buggy away. However, due to Clinton's towing truck having a flat tire, Clinton couldn't take the Jeep back to his place. So the two went to get something to eat, then parted ways, with William allegedly thinking that Clinton would show up the next day to take the Jeep away. Clinton did not return. He was never seen again. A week later, Clinton's other truck, not the towing one, was discovered in the center of Weleetka, Oklahoma. It had been sitting there since August 4th. Despite its window being down, many valuable items were still in it. Further investigation discovered the truck's transmission to not be working. Clinton is one of the older missing people we've featured on Unfound. Contemplate if that makes a difference in your calculations as you also try to answer these 3 questions during the interview. Number 1, how much does it bother you that William has never brought his Jeep to Clinton's family? Number 2, are you inclined to believe the witness who says someone not matching Clinton's description put the truck where it was eventually found? And number 3, Clinton really couldn't have been trying to walk the 10 miles home after his truck broke down, could he? Clinton's family firmly believes foul play is the cause of his disappearance. The guests for this episode are 2 of Clinton's children, Mary and Clinton Jr. Unfound News. It's the end of the month, so the public audience should be keeping your eyes peeled for the next episode of Unfound Now, where I analyze a relatively new unsolved disappearance. I've not yet picked one out. Next, also because this is the end of the month, for you Patreon and YouTube supporters, the next Found episode is coming out. I'll be analyzing From Disappearance to Discovery, a guy who was on the FBI's top 10 wanted list for a very long time. Finally, yes, I am keeping my eyes on news coming out of Corpus Christi, Texas, regarding remains found there that could be Caleb Harris. I'm so happy to have on this episode of Unfound 2 of Clinton's children, Mary and Clinton Jr. Mary and Clinton, welcome to Unfound.
Hi, it's good to talk to you. And thank you for taking time to interview us and get our story out there.
You're very welcome. And Clinton, you're on the line too, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, good to hear from you too. Okay, let's just start here. Being that you are 2 of Clinton Sr.'s kids, I mean, how many kids does he have? Maybe you want to just talk about, we like to really get to know the family and then, of course, very well the missing person. But just talk to the listeners a little bit about your family. How many kids? Where did you all grow up? Things like that. Either one of you can take that, or both.
Well, I have 3 kids.
Okay.
And Clinton has 5. I've been married for, it'll be 25 years in August.
Wow,
Clinton's
congratulations.
been married. How long have you been married, Clint?
I'll be 15.
Congratulations to both of you.
Well, thank you, sir.
We grew up, we lived half the time, I think until like 89, 90 in Jane, Missouri, and then after that we moved to Elkland.
Okay.
And then after that we moved to
Hermitage,
Okay.
Missouri.
Clinton and I lived with Mom after Dad and Mom split for a while. And I think that lasted for, 2 years, and then we both ended up at Dad's.
Yep.
And we lived with Dad until we were adults.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, you got married, sis.
Yeah, I got married.
Uh-huh. Okay.
They all moved to Oklahoma, Tulsa area.
Okay. And so do you have any other siblings, the 2 of you?
We got 2 stepbrothers that we have never met out in Texas. I do believe Corpus Christi.
Okay.
And that was my dad's first wife.
Okay. All right.
And
Please.
I don't even know their names.
Okay. All right. And, I have to admit, we did not talk about your mother in our prior conversations. Is she still with us or not? Is she still alive?
Oh, yeah, alive and well.
Okay, great.
Me as ever.
Okay, all right. But you said that your parents split up at some time.
Yes.
Oh, okay. And you're saying that your father got married again then?
No.
He did not. Okay. And my understanding is at the time of his disappearance he was living by himself?
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's just move on to talking about him. Maybe I'll start with you, Clinton Jr., since you have your father's name. Just tell and I'm going to give Mary, of course, a chance as well. Tell the listeners a little bit about your father, personality, interests. I've learned that he liked to trade in cars, but what kind of guy was he?
He was just a stand-up guy. He was a person that if you met him once, and he was just down-to-earth guy. I mean, he was a good guy. Help anybody. And give your shirt off his back if you didn't have one.
Mm-hmm.
He was always was willing to help, and he didn't ask. If you was broke down on the side of the road, he'd fix your car and just go on about the day.
Okay.
That's how.
And I know, was he always in the car business? Of course, we're going to get to this part about trading cars and things. Was he always a tinkerer or into the car business, or what was that?
Yes, he was. He was a mechanic. He had a shop down where we grew up in Jane, Missouri. The shop's still standing. It says Bob's Garage on it.
Huh.
And every time we go down through there, my sister, she lives down there within 20 miles of that place.
Yeah.
And that was a family, it was a family business,
Mm-hmm.
And he'd fix everybody's cars and tractors, and it's
okay.
But yeah, that was part of his life whenever he was growing up. He was building dune buggies out in out in California whenever he had a motorcycle shop out there, and yeah, it was.
Okay.
It's been part of his life for many years.
Okay. And Mary, what kind of father was he? Was he kind of a laid-back type, a disciplinarian? What kind of father was he?
Oh, goodness. His personality was... I don't even know how to explain him. He was bullheaded, stubborn.
Oh, okay.
He would correct you if you needed correcting.
Uh-huh.
But also, if you were upset, he would make sure that he made everything okay.
Yeah.
And, when he was, goodness, just thinking back, growing up, he taught us how to, stand on our own 2 feet,
Yeah.
be independent, do the things that, he wanted his kids to know how to do.
Yeah. All right, he wanted you his kids to be self-sufficient.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Good. Okay.
I think he taught us. So if you want something, work for it, get it, pay for it.
Okay.
Don't look for a handout. Don't look for a handout.
Okay.
Even still to this day, whenever he would hear "Oh, we bought a new car. Well, did you pay cash for it?" "No, Dad, I financed it." "Well, if you financed it, you don't need it. If you can't pay cash for it, you don't need it."
Yeah, that's
okay, Dad.
Yeah, so he's anti car loans, anti credit cards, and I can identify with both of those. I don't own a credit card, and I've never made a car payment. So so you buy cheaper cars. That's just the way what you do. So I can identify with that. I think that's pretty good. Some good financial advice. Okay. Let me ask you too about this. How often were you seeing him during that year leading up to his disappearance? Of 2018. Of course, August is when he went missing. In 2018, how often were you two seeing him or talking to him?
I would talk to Dad probably at least try to get a hold of him, or he'd call me at least once a week or once every other week.
Okay.
We didn't talk every day, which now I'm really kicking myself in the ass for. I should have talked to him every day, but life's busy, he's busy, we're busy, have kids.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
But he would come up because where he was moving to in Spavinaw wasn't, but it's like an hour and a half from my house to his house. So he was here. Oh man, when was the last time he was up? I want to say he always spent Christmas and Thanksgivings with us.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't remember if he had came up between Christmas and August or not.
Okay. Yeah, he was working on the Ford. He was working on the Ford for you guys.
That's true.
Wow.
The diesel.
Okay. And what about you, Clinton? How often would you see him or talk to him?
Well, I would talk to him. I would call him about every other day.
Okay. A little more often.
But going to see him, I'm like 12 hours from there.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And trying to get trying to get the funds to go down. It's kind of hard just to go down there for a weekend. That's
right. Yeah, when you're going that far, yeah, you want to spend some days there, and then that gets in the way. Of course, you're married, you have kids, or maybe you have kids. It gets in the way of those things, and work, of course.
And it's hard on me now because we ain't got the luxury of calling anymore and going to see him, and
yeah. So you lived, Clinton. You lived about 12 hours away from him. Mary, how far did you live from him?
About an hour and a half.
Okay, a little closer, a lot closer. Okay. And once again, we're going to get into this he was moving thing here in a moment, but he was, once again, at the time of his disappearance, he was living by himself. And how long had he lived at that location?
I want to say 4, 5 years.
4 or 5 years, okay.
I think it was longer than that, though.
No, yeah, it was.
Okay.
The place that he has in Spavinaw, he had from 2000, I'm going to say 2000, because that's when, or a little before, 99? Yeah.
I was 17 when he bought the property.
Okay.
Right before Dean and I got married.
Yeah.
So he lived there in 99, but the place in Dustin, now I want to say he had that one.
It would have been 12. I'll say 12 years probably.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So the place he was living in when he went missing, this place we're going to talk about where somebody did go over to check it out, and we'll get to that. He was living there for about 12 years.
Yeah.
Okay. And what address is, I know we've talked about counties in our prior conversations, but if we were going to mail him a letter, what is the town that he lived in? What is the address considered?
Dustin, Oklahoma.
Dustin, Oklahoma. Okay. All right. And we just wanted to make sure everybody realized that if they wanted to go to a map. Okay. Let's move on to some of those things regarding him. And we'll start first with something that I guess had happened, that he had a property, because this is something we need to think about regarding his disappearance, was he had a property or a building that he owned that was burned. Mary, maybe you want to talk a little bit about that, and then I'll give a Clinton a chance to jump in. Yeah, a guy named Rex actually burned a building that your father owned down. What was that? What happened there?
It was a smaller house in the town of Weleetka.
Okay.
He rented it to a woman with two small children.
Okay.
And her boyfriend got into it, and from what I understand, Rex Case.
Cassie,
I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
But he somehow set the house on fire.
Wow.
I'm not sure what the disagreement was between the two of them.
Wow.
I'm just going off what Dad told us, that, her boyfriend, Rex, caught the house on fire, and if I'm not mistaken, he did go to jail for that.
Okay. And Clinton, you want to add anything to maybe I'll ask you, in what year approximately did this happen, Clinton?
Oh.
I'll just keep it easy. Was it close to when your father went missing, or would you say like it was 5 years before? You don't have to be exact.
I want to say, yeah, it was years before. It was probably, I want to say probably 4 years before that.
Okay, so not close.
Before my dad ended up missing.
Okay. And I guess what we're also saying about this is that this was a burning that was not directed at your father. This was something between this guy and this woman. This was not something that, this guy hated your father or anything like that, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'm hoping nobody got hurt or killed in this fire. I'm hoping.
No.
Okay. Did your father get an insurance settlement from that, or did that get resolved, or how did that get resolved, Clinton?
No, there wasn't no insurance. Actually, the town of Weleetka had was gonna fine my dad for not cleaning the place up, and he cleaned it all up, and got it to where it's. I think it went to. The church got a hold of us and asked if they wanted to, if they can have it, and we just gave it to them.
Okay, got you. Was this before? So you gave it to him. So this was after your father went missing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Let's move on to this. This is though something else that came up. This was another burning from a prior conversation that there was a guy. It'll be up to you whether you want to use his name or not. But somebody, the way I would explain it, you can of course use your own words, was harassment or something. When your father would go away, somebody was doing something to the property where he lived. Clinton, what can you say about that?
That would have been. He never could, accuse anybody because he was always gone when all this happened.
Okay.
But the neighbor where pretty much the start line would be of a fire.
Okay.
And a fire burns out. If you light a fire, it always goes into a V, and pretty much it went from the creek side on his property up the hill. So the neighbor behind my dad.
All right, and so this guy was setting fire to your father's property?
Uh-huh.
What? Any insight into why he was doing that? Of course, I'd like Mary's opinion on this in a moment too, but I'll continue with you, Clinton. What was going on there? What was?
I'm not for sure, but when my dad, he always wheeled and dealed in cars, and he had several out there. I don't know if it was due because he had all these cars out there, or and the guy got jealous or just wanted to try to help him out and clean it up and burn it all. I really couldn't.
Okay.
Really couldn't put it past what the guy was thinking, But that was pretty much my dad's income.
Yeah.
So why would a person do that if that's their income?
I agree with you. Mary, what can you say about this? Maybe I will put this in the timeline. How long, to your knowledge, once again, Mary, how long had this been going on, and did any of this happen near the time that your father went missing? What do you remember about all that?
The last fire I remember that happened, and I don't remember the year, but there was a big hurricane that came through Corpus Christi, Texas.
Okay.
And Dad was down there with Uncle Clinton, and he, of course, couldn't leave. There was a bunch of flooding, and you just couldn't get very far. And one of the neighbors had called and told him that his place had caught on fire, and I was checking on Dad, and he had told us, that he he wasn't 100% sure, but he thinks the neighbors are trying to burn him out because they don't like all the junk on the property. And when we was out there after Dad went missing, we had a neighbor stop by and ask if we was going to clean the place up and blah, 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 wanting to buy the place. And I don't remember that guy's name, but I think it had something to do with just the appearance of the property. Yeah. They didn't like it, thought it was an eyesore, wanted him gone.
Was there any kind of lawsuit or anything? Did your father ever try to do anything about this? Try to take him to court? Any charges? Anything like that, Mary?
No.
Any reason you would think that somebody would do something about that? Why do you think he never tried to do anything about that?
Because it's Oklahoma, there's no proof that it was set on an intentional fire or a wildfire. He had no proof that somebody did it on purpose.
Okay.
Now, if he would have ever found out that it was done on purpose, then yes, I think Dad would have filed a police report. But without proof, or somebody just blatantly saying, I'm trying to burn you out.
Okay. So, but to continue with that, Mary, so your belief is that, maybe your father even said it to you, that he believed the neighbor was doing this.
Yes. Okay. Dad said that he believed the neighbors are trying to burn him out.
Okay, but once again, nothing ever went to court. And maybe I'll go back to you, Clinton, just to finish this topic. What do you think the status was as far as friendliness or non-friendliness between you and your father at the time of your father's disappearance, as best as you can tell?
The best as I can tell. I know he didn't like him.
Okay.
It'd be like my dad. If he liked you, he liked you. If he didn't, he didn't. And he would let you know if he didn't like you. And there was another guy that lives, to the north of him, and there's a guy to the south of him across the road that borders my dad.
Yeah.
And he come down and was, I think it was Buford. He lives down in Texas. And actually, Buford is the one that my dad bought the property from.
Okay.
And he was down there helping my dad one day, and he come down there and pulled a shotgun out on my dad. And Buford slapped him and took the gun away from him, just told him to get out of here. Ejected all the shells and gave him the gun back and told him to get.
Who was this guy that had the shotgun?
I do not know his name, sir. Okay. To be honest with you.
Okay.
I know he lived just dead south of my dad's driveway. He borders his.
What was his? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You can edit this if you want.
Go ahead.
His name. I have two names on my notes, and beside it, I have enemies. So.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah. I think that was. If I had Buford's number, I'd just call him and ask him.
All right. So we'll just maybe finish this right here for this topic. During the year of 2018, once again, I realize you had your own lives to lead, and Clinton, you live 12 hours away. But do you know, for the year of 2018, was there any recent problems with either of these guys? To your knowledge.
Not to my knowledge, neither.
Okay. Let's move on to this, and Mary, I'll ask you this first. Of course, there's this doctor's appointment that occurred. Your father having any physical issues? Was this just a checkup? What do you know about this doctor's appointment that I think happened, the day before he went missing, right?
Yes.
All right. What do you know about that appointment?
100% sure on the date, but he came into Dustin on August 3rd.
Okay.
So I would say the appointment was either the 3rd or the 4th.
Okay.
And when I talked to the clerk at the doctor's office, she told me there wasn't much she could tell me, but it was just a checkup, and Dad had told me that he was just going to get his meds refilled. So,
Okay.
and as far as she could tell me that there wasn't really anything going on with Dad with, major health issues, just some high blood pressure, just the normal, older people's problems is blood pressure.
Yeah.
And other than that, because I did ask her, I was like, well, is there anything that would make you believe that he wasn't of sound mind? And she said, no.
Okay.
There was no concerns medically that we wanted to follow up with and nothing like that. But she wouldn't go into much more detail because of HIPAA.
Okay. Clinton, I'll ask you, father ever have any health issues in the past? Maybe like a heart attack, anything like that? Cancer, treated for cancer, anything like that, maybe in the distant past?
No.
None. Okay. All right, so we have this doctor's appointment, and we just, once again, we're not sure if this happened on August 3rd, August 2nd, August 4th, somewhere in there. Do we?
Yes.
Do we? We don't have an exact date for that.
No.
Nope. I just know that he went into town from Savinaw to Dustin on August 3rd. Is the day that he left to go to Dustin.
Okay, very good. Let's move on to this. Now, this guy's going to play a prominent role, but I think what we want to establish at this point is there's this guy's name is William Dinscore. You two had never heard of him before this your father's disappearance, correct?
Correct.
No.
Okay.
Never heard of him.
I never heard of him before. And just in general, what is your understanding? And I'll ask you this first, Clint. What is your general understanding of what your father was going to be doing with William around this time of the disappearance? What were they supposed to be doing?
William wanted to trade a dune. My dad had a dune buggy, and he had a Jeep. And they were supposed to. The dune buggy was gone. The Jeep never did come back because I think he was doing other stuff, getting stuff for William Dinscore that day in Weleetka. They was doing some other trading there and with another guy. William was doing the trading with another guy, and he didn't have the vehicle to pull the trailer back or whatever.
Okay.
Whatever was going on that day, he didn't have the vehicle. My dad did. He pulled everything back to William's house.
Okay. And so, to this day, I'll ask you, Clinton, do we have any idea how there was a belief maybe, and we actually talked about this right before this interview started, is it possible that William's son knew your father somehow, like worked for him, or has that been sorted out?
If my dad had somebody helping him, he would always tell somebody, and I have never heard my dad never did mention it that he had anybody working for him.
Okay.
Helping him out, he was self-dependent. I mean, he did it all on his own.
Okay. So, moving to you, Mary. So, do we know, of course, we're doing this interview on June 23rd of 2024. Do you know how William and your father even ended up running into each other to the point that they could have been doing this deal of trading vehicles? Do you know that? Do you know how they even encountered each other?
I do believe that, again, Buford, I think he knew Buford somehow, and Uncle Kenny is the one that actually told us about William. Whenever we met Uncle Kenny out there after Dad went missing, going over things, Uncle Kenny said, well, hey, let's just go get William, see if we can get him out here so we can talk to him. And he showed up and said that, he came back over the next day to see what Dad was doing to finish the trade out. The gate was open, looked odd to him. Dad never left anything.
Okay, we'll get into that, Mary. I'm just trying to establish right now, the best as you can tell is that the way your father and William ended up doing this deal is they were introduced to each other by somebody else.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And we'll get into how everybody went over there and checked out the property and everything. And we're going to get into Dinscore a little bit more here in a bit because he had a story to tell. All right. So we just have to keep in mind that around this time, August 3rd, August 4th, that William and Clinton Sr. were to be doing allegedly some sort of trading, and we'll get more specific that in a moment. But they were not friends who had known each other for years, and in fact, they had just met each other recently through a third party. Okay, moving on. Mary, I'll ask you this. Is it true that your father was moving? So that property where this stuff was happening, where the burning happened, where he was living at the time, was your father going to be moving permanently to somewhere else?
Yes, he had told me that he was in the process of getting all of his stuff from Dustin back to the Spavinall property.
Okay. Any did he give you any reason for that? Any just change of scenery? Wanted to sell something? As best as you can tell, why was he doing this?
He never really gave me a reason, just that it's more comfortable in Spavinall. Don't have to worry about his stuff. Everything's secure there. He knew all the neighbors there. Never had any trouble with anybody down there. So he was just moving back.
Okay. And Clinton, what do you have any additional insight into that? Your impression as well, or is your impression a little bit different?
My impression's a little different.
Okay, well, all right, that's fine. I have to ask, so you go ahead and say what you have to say. Maybe we can talk this out a little bit. Go ahead and say whatever you have to say, Clinton.
No, well, Mary was right. Made everything safe in Spavinall. I want to say he was moving because he was getting burnt out. People was trying to burn him out.
Oh, okay. All right. So you, in your opinion, then, Clinton Jr., that because of the things that have been going on with the neighbor, and you've already told these, we already have covered these couple of stories. Your father was like, you know what, I've had enough of this.
Yeah.
Okay. Was he going to be selling that property? Was he renting? Did he own the property? Do you know what he was going to be doing with that?
Yeah, he owned it. He wasn't going to rent it out to nobody.
Okay.
I think he was just keep it just to have it,
Okay.
Maybe probably he did put a well on there, and out there in that region of out there in the country out there, people have to go to a water station just to, if they didn't have a well, they'd have to haul their water back in.
Oh.
And so, and they did put a well in. I think him and Buford's the one that put the well in, and they did all the work there, and drilled their own well, put it in, and hooked it up, and had good water.
Okay. And Mary, how far is this move? Being that most people listening right now are not familiar with that area, how far of a move was this going to be from where he was to where he was going?
I think it's right at 2 hours.
No, so pretty decent move. Not right down the street.
No.
Okay. All right, let's move on to this. So I guess what we've established, at least what I've learned over the last 45 minutes about your father, is that really didn't have any health issues going on, didn't have any mental health issues going on. It seems he did have some beefs with a couple of people, but doesn't seem like anything was coming to a head in the year 2018. Is that, going to you, Clinton Jr., is that how you would think about what was going on in 2018 with your father? No health issues, had some beefs, but nothing specific in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. And would you say the last time you both talked to him was your father in good spirits, positive about the future? What would you say about that?
Oh yeah, he was always in good spirits. Everybody has their days, but yeah, he was always in good spirits.
Okay.
Oh yeah, he was excited about his first grandbaby coming.
Ha! Of course.
Great grandbaby.
Wow.
Not grandbaby, but great grandbaby.
Great grandbaby. Oh my. Okay. And when was that baby due?
She was due April. What year was Mia born? 2019.
Okay. So if he went missing in August, whoever the mother was must have just found out that she was pregnant.
Yeah.
Right? All right. So it was very early on. Okay. So let's go up to August 4th. This is the best day that we can determine that your father went missing. And I will start with you, Mary. What is the story? Of course, we're going to go back to this William Dinscore guy. I understand that his last name is spelled Dinscore. What is the story he told? Of course, we have this trade that was to happen. What is the story that he told about seeing your father that day? And then, Clinton, you're going to get a chance to get on this as well. But I'm going to start with Mary.
That they met at Dad's house. They loaded up his part of the trade. They went back to his house, and then they were supposed to do some other stuff, but something came up, or Dad was too tired, something along the lines. They ended up at Dairy Queen in Wetumpka and ate some ice cream.
Huh.
And then after that, Dad went to Dollar General and went home, and then they were supposed to finish up the trade the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
And when William showed up, the gate was open. Dad was nowhere to be found. And he just, if I remember right, William closed the gate.
Okay.
Don't hold me to that because I can't remember.
Okay.
And then what about his life? And we didn't know anything about it until after we got the phone call that he was missing.
All right.
And that's when we...
All right, and we'll get into that. So and you understand this all started on August 4th. So William goes over to your father's house, and they meet up, and he tows the dune buggy away.
Yes.
On August 4th.
Yes.
All right. And they go have ice cream, okay? And William says that they went their separate ways.
Yes.
Okay. And then and moving to you, Clinton, what is your idea? What was supposed to happen the next day? How was your father then going to get this Jeep in return, as best as you can tell?
The best I can tell, that the truck that he was driving was a dually Dodge, and when we made it out there and was checking everything over, it had a blowout on the back,
mm-hmm.
and I want to say he wanted to go get it the next day because it was hooked up to a trailer and everything.
Oh, okay, got you.
Ready to go.
Right.
And I want to say he was going to go get it, finish up in the morning where it was cool.
Yeah.
And never did happen.
Okay. In your opinion, Clinton, being that this dually had a flat, is that something that your father could have fixed at his place, or would he have had to have taken it somewhere to get it fixed?
Oh no, there was a spare in the back. There was two spares in the back.
Wow.
And it was jacked up, put the other one on. You know.
Okay.
It was all good.
Any idea how long this tire had been flat on this truck? Any idea at all?
I want to say my dad, he always, if it had a flat, he'd fix it. And it would he probably blowed it out on the way back from Dollar General. Because the stuff that he bought and the receipt was right there in the passenger seat.
Okay.
But everything was bought right there, this receipt and everything in the back.
Okay. This is where I have to make sure everybody understands that we are talking about two different trucks. The truck we're going to eventually talk about that was found abandoned at in this church parking lot, that's a different truck than the one we're talking about that had a flat tire, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Two different trucks. Okay. So once again, to go through this, they make this trade. The dune buggy gets taken away from Clinton's, and the next morning, at least the story William tells, it might be not true, but this is the story, that he goes to your father's the next morning and your father's not there, and that truck, that dually truck, is sitting there with a flat tire.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm just wondering, once again, if you've had a chance to ask William this, why didn't they just do the trade the day before? I mean, they're going over to Williams anyway. Why didn't your father just get that Jeep back the same day? Or was it because the tire was flat? Do you know?
I'm not 100% on that.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you. He actually got questioned twice, William.
I'm sure he did.
And once from the investigator out of Holdenville.
Mm-hmm.
The police station pulled him in for questioning. Then several months later, I got a hold of an Adam Good. He works for the district attorney's office.
Yeah.
And he changed jobs. I don't know when, but and he asked him about everything went on that day. He didn't mention anything about trading. Didn't mention anything about going eating Dairy Queen.
Wow.
Anything. He didn't mention anything what they done that day.
Wow. All right. So, in your opinion, I want to get Mary in on this eventually as well. In your opinion, the story that William told originally was different than what he told this other guy several months later. In your opinion?
Yes.
Okay. Mary, can you add anything to that? What Clinton Jr. just said?
No, because I didn't talk to either the district attorney or the Adam Good.
Okay. All right. I have to ask you, once again, regarding this story. There is proof, obviously, we have this receipt from the Dollar General store from August 4th. Is there proof that William and your father actually went to get ice cream at Dairy Queen? Is there proof of that, or we still just have to take William's word on that?
Yes, we actually talked to the Dairy Queen there, and we showed him the picture and told him what day he come up, and he said, yes, I remember him.
Okay.
They sat out there and ate ice cream and talked for a while, and I asked the lady if if he was up, seemed all right and everything. He said, well, yeah. Okay. He was fine. He was hot, but he was fine.
Okay. All right. So, Mary, what we're saying here is that eventually, of course, they were supposed to do this trade. Mary, is it then we are to believe that in the end, even though this trade was supposed to happen, is that William Dinscore got the dune buggy, but he got to keep his Jeep too?
Yes.
All right. So that is that is the stickler in all of this. All right, so William's just saying, yeah, I went over there the next day, wasn't there, I didn't know what to do. What was I going to do? Just dump this Jeep right here when I can't find him. And we're going to come back, of course, to William again. But for both of you, what was the red flag? Mary, I'll start with you. What was the red flag for you that something wasn't right regarding your father? How did you find out that, your father hadn't been seen for a while? How did you personally find out? Clinton Jr., I'm going to give you an opportunity as well, but we'll start with Mary.
Well, whenever we first got the information that, nobody had talked to Dad, okay, including us, in a few days, we just thought, it ain't out of the ordinary. Maybe Dad broke his phone. Maybe he lost his phone. There was one point that his phone wasn't working, and he was at Daryl's house, and I had actually called the cell phone company and made them reset it. So I was thinking maybe it's something like that again. No, it wasn't that. It wasn't until, whenever I found out, I went ahead and made the police report. Just filed the missing police report since nobody had talked to him, so he could maybe see the silver alert and try to get a hold of one of us.
Right.
And whenever I got a hold of the doctor's office, and they said the truck was sitting for a week across the street, that's whenever fears just took over. Like, okay, that's weird. Dad wouldn't leave his vehicle there for that long. Something's not right. And then when we got out there, and the keys were in the truck on the seat, and his checkbook was on the dash, and just something that Dad would never do is leave his keys anywhere, or a truck unlocked, or a gate unlocked. Everything always had to be locked. If he was pumping gas, his doors were locked.
Okay. All right. So what you're saying is, something you went over very quickly there is, it was actually his own doctor's office who was the one who noticed the truck was sitting there.
Yes.
And how far? And we're going to get into the truck specifically, this location, but how far would you say the truck was from the doctor's office? 100 feet, 200 feet, a football field? How far?
A football field.
300 feet. So it was that close.
Yeah, it wasn't very far at all. Right there in the center of town. Everybody, like the main road, you had to drive by. To get anywhere, to get to the gas station, to get to a Dollar General, to get to the bank, to get anywhere, you had to drive right by this truck every day.
Okay, very good.
And the police department was right there.
Right, and we're going to talk about all of that. Thank you. And just one more thing. And before I move to Clinton's Jr., what was it that made you call his doctor's office? What was it in your mind that of calling people trying to find out where your father was? How did it come to your mind to call his doctor's office?
Because that's why he was going to town, is to get his medicine refilled. So I figured that's where I'll start, just to see. They knew him. They knew how he was. Was there anything off? What was he like? Should we be concerned?
Yeah.
And they told me no. There was nothing off. Nothing was wrong with him.
Okay.
Otherwise healthy.
Okay. All right, Clinton Jr., same question. How did you find out? Did Mary call you, or how did you find out that your father had not been seen in a while?
Yes. Actually, Daryl and my Uncle Kenny was talking, and they was trying to get in touch with us, and they didn't have the right phone numbers or what was going on, but my Uncle Kenny, he actually put a well-being check out for me, but it was for my dad, and the police station in Clark County got a hold of my wife and asked if I was around, and we were celebrating our anniversary, and I had to talk to the cops, and they said, well, you're all right. That was a part of the job. They had to check and see if I was all right.
Sure.
And they told me to get a hold of my Uncle Kenny. So I got a hold of him, and he told me what was going on. And I called my sister and told him that I had to talk to the cops. They'd done a well-being check on for me because they didn't have our phone numbers. They was trying to get in contact with us. And that's when everything was, we didn't know anything was going on until the cops got a hold of us. So we got a hold of the family and, and got pretty much the news, I guess.
Okay, so it sounds to me like there was a little maybe of a misunderstanding, being that you both had the same name. All right.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So they're looking for Clinton Sr., but they got confused. They found you, and then just that's how it happened for you. They were actually looking for Dad, not for me. Okay. Okay. So I'll continue with you, Clinton. Of course, we've already talked about William Dinscore allegedly going over to your father's house and not finding anything. Who went over to the house first? Somebody, of course, that you trust. Who went over there to do like a welfare check on your father? Who did that?
Daryl Black. He's the one that actually got a hold of the police station and drove all the way out to Holdenville for Hughes County, and to see what was going on, to see if they can do a well-being check,
Yeah.
And we didn't know at this time. That was before the missing persons report came out, and he did that on his own, him and his wife and his daughter.
Okay.
Did that on their own, try to figure out what was going on, and he was keeping in contact with my Uncle Kenny, and then that's how everything come up to us after they got in contact with me.
Okay. So Daryl goes out there. Does he go out there by himself, or did your Uncle Kenny go too? Who went out there?
I want to say it was just him, Daryl, and his wife and his daughter went out. Okay. They went to, there's a little police station there in,
Weleetka.
Yeah, Weleetka. We went to them.
Okay.
Gave them the tag number. Although the truck was sitting 3.5 blocks from the police station, sitting in plain sight, they gave them the tag number, and he drove to Holdenville to do the well-being check on my dad. They went out there and looked, and they couldn't find nothing. But how come if you're...
Well, I don't want to get into how come. We're going to get all this. I just want to understand, it was Daryl who went out. Did he go out there by himself? Did he go out there with the police? Who went out there to check on the house?
I think the police went with Daryl.
Okay.
And that's how we found out that there was a truck missing. Is when Daryl went out there, he realized that one of Dad's trucks wasn't there. So that's why he actually went to the tag agency back in Pryor, Oklahoma, and he knows the lady, she knows Dad, and got the tag number for the truck that was missing, and the 92 Chevy, and that's how he got the tag number ran, is because he figured out which truck wasn't
there.
Wasn't at the property.
Okay. What did, when Daryl, we'll just go by Daryl's word. Daryl went out there, did he find it? Besides, of course, a truck not being there. The other truck, of course, was there. It has the flat tire. But anything unusual that Daryl passed along to the two of you, I'll ask you, Mary, anything that he passed along to, anything like signs of violence, anything, besides the truck, anything missing, any signs that somebody else had been there and was like rummaging around in the house, anything like that? Mary?
Not that we were aware of. Daryl never said anything looked out of place. But again, I don't think Daryl had ever really been out there. Okay. Maybe once before, but it was so far out there. Daryl didn't go out there very often, if at all, that I know of.
All right, so maybe we're in a situation you have somebody goes out there who you trust, but also doesn't know the property that well to be able to really notice if anything is unusual or not.
Right, and that was the same for Clinton and I.
Yeah.
I hadn't been out there at that property in probably 3 years.
Okay.
So I really didn't know too much, and the way Dad moves things, and he's in the process of moving back and forth,
right?
It'd be hard to tell.
Right, of course. All right, so at least nothing obvious. No signs of violence. Just to be honest about all this, no blood on the ground, no blood on the floor, no broken windows, no bullet holes, nothing like that. We just have this missing truck, and then, of course, this other truck with a flat tire. Speaking of trucks, being that we've mentioned it a couple times already, and I'll go back to Clinton Jr. for this. So the truck was sitting there in the middle of town in Weleetka, and it had been sitting there right near the doctor's office. Is that correct, Clinton?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And it was, I guess, in the outline, who found it? I guess it was the doctor's office who found it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on. We're going to come back to the truck, but it's sitting there right in the middle of town.
Correct.
And I think that Mary said it was like 3.5 blocks from the police department.
Yes.
Okay. All right, let's move on to this. So now we know he's missing. Everybody knows that he's missing. And the truck is there. And we'll get into the specifics of the exterior, the interior, and all that here in a bit. But I understand, Clinton, I'll ask you, of course. Mary, I want to give you a shot at this answer, the question as well. Was there a witness who allegedly saw somebody actually parking the truck there, Clinton?
Yes.
Okay. Do we know the description of this person? Is it your father's description or something different? What did this person have to say?
It was something different. He was tall, kind of medium built, kind of longer hair.
Okay.
And we asked him if he was walking with a cane or anything, because my dad, he walked with a cane, and he walked with a, I didn't want to say a limp, but it was kind of a
little hitch in his get along.
Yeah, pretty
Okay.
much.
All right, maybe a little bit of a hip problem. Just you can tell the hips aren't as greased up as they used to be.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Mary, I'll ask you the same question about this. I'll ask you very pointedly. Was this person who, if we're to believe this witness, and everybody else understands, we know, at least from my experience, I know how witnesses get things wrong, but was this person, I guess a guy, around your father's age or much younger? What can you say about that?
The lady I talked to, her name was Ruth.
Okay.
And she worked at the community center there, where they have like lunch for the elderly people. Yeah. And that was on August 14th.
Okay.
And she said that one of the guys that frequently eat there told her that he seen somebody parking that truck, getting out. The guy was taller, and he walked away swiftly. Didn't seem like it would have been my dad, because Dad's shorter. Mm-hmm. Dad's, older, has a belly. He don't walk very fastly.
Okay.
And like Clint said, he walks with kind of a slower pace, because he's older.
Yeah, he's 71 years old.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So that's when we realized that, somebody else had parked this truck. Okay,
so I have to ask you this. Being that, unfortunately, what you're talking about, this is coming through a third party, somebody who talked to somebody. Did you, or you, Clinton, either of you ever get to actually speak to this witness directly?
No.
Any reason for that?
We talked to the cops, and the cops told us to let them do the investigation, not for us to get involved. Okay.
Do you even know who this person might be? Do you know this? We don't want to make the person's name. Do you even know what the person's name is?
I do not.
Okay.
The only name I got was Ruthie from. That's all the information that I wrote down. She did not give me the guy's name.
She didn't?
No.
All right, did she not do that because she didn't want to, or didn't know? Was she reluctant to do that?
I don't know for sure. I just know I did not write down that information, and I was not given that information. Okay. I did tell the police officer or the detective that I talked to this lady. She said that they have an eyewitness. Could you please go check it out? Okay. But as far as if they did or not, I have no idea.
Okay. All right, and going back to you, Clinton Jr., being that this woman talked to this person who allegedly saw this, do we know what date it was that this witness allegedly saw this guy park the truck and walk away? Do we even know what date it was?
No, sir.
Okay.
No.
All right, and we have to remember, as Mary's already stated, this is a conversation that's not taking place until like 10 days later, correct, Mary?
Yes.
All right. So we have this situation, if we want to believe it. Like I said, my experience, it very well may be that somebody else parked a truck there. his truck there. Of course, the problem I have with all these disappearances we feature on Unfound, it's amazing how eyewitnesses get things wrong. Okay.
Yes.
So moving on, let's talk about William. Let's go. So we know the truck ended up there. Whether Clinton Sr. put it there or somebody else put it there, the truck was there. So William Dinscore, how soon? Of course, we've talked so much about him, but just to be clear on this, when did he first become a part of the conversation, Mary? As far as when did his name first pop up regarding that, he might have had some dealings with your father around the disappearance time? How did his name even come up?
It was I want to say the day we got out there was the 12th. And that's whenever we found out about William. Because Uncle Kenny showed up, got a hold of William. He showed up, told us about, what happened, how Dad was. He seemed fine. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, this and that, blah, blah, blah. That's how we came into contact with William, is through Uncle Kenny going and getting him and bringing him back over to town so we could talk to him.
Okay,
I got a question.
Please go ahead, Clint. Please.
Now on that day, we all said, I do believe Uncle Kenny called him, and he showed up there.
Yeah, you're right, Clinton. It wasn't on the day after the first day.
Where the truck was, and he showed up at where the truck was, in the church parking lot where we were sitting.
Oh, he did?
He showed up.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great.
And we told him, just come to Weleetka, and he showed up where we was at.
Okay. I have to ask, did somebody explain where you were, or did he just kind of know?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay.
Because I was standing right there when my Uncle Kenny called him.
All right. So I guess what you're saying in so many words, Clint, is it very well could be that William knew where the truck was without anybody explaining to him where the truck was.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
I'm just now. When we showed up out there, our minds was going 300 mile an hour.
Of course.
Just trying to figure something out and passing out flyers that day and all that, and I'm gonna have to ask my wife, but I'm pretty sure she was a part of that conversation. She was standing right beside me.
Okay. All right. So you're at the truck. It's in the abandoned truck, and William shows up there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I asked my wife.
Okay.
That was right.
All right. Now let's talk about, now that you've established that, let's talk about this truck. First of all, the parking lot that it was in, I'll just continue with you, Clinton. It was in the parking lot of what kind of establishment?
A church parking lot.
Church parking lot. Your father go to this church? Did he have any dealings with this church, to your knowledge?
No, sir.
None. Okay. Any idea how long it had been sitting there? Since August 4th, since August 5th, has that ever been determined?
No, actually, I think, the doctor's office said it was sitting there for a week.
For a long time?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I have to ask you, and I'll move over to Mary for this. So, it sat there in that church parking lot for a week, and the church didn't do anything? Didn't call anybody? Didn't say, what's this truck doing sitting on our parking lot? Nothing.
Nope. Nobody called anybody. The tags were never ran. Usually if you park a vehicle in a certain spot for too long, your tags are going to get ran to find out who owns this vehicle, if they're going to tag it, they're going to have it moved, stuff like that. Nothing was done.
I agree with you. Did you, Mary, or anybody else in your family ever have a chance to talk to I don't know, the priest, the pastor, the reverend, whoever it was, about this? Why was it that, my father's truck was sitting in your parking lot for a week and nobody ever did anything about it? Did you ever do that?
Me and the search team actually did go into the church,
Okay.
and they talked to the congregation.
Okay.
They just said that they never noticed it, never paid attention.
That is odd. I mean, I don't mean to chuckle a little bit, but
The truck wasn't parked in the front of the church. It was parked in the parking lot in the back. So, I don't know.
Okay, what kind of...
It was quite a day there.
Okay. All right, but your father was not part of this congregation, and you don't even know if anybody in the congregation even knew your father at all?
No.
Okay, so it sits there for a week in I know it's a church, but a business's parking lot, and nobody ever says anything. Nobody tries to find out why this truck is here or anything. Okay. Now, the way I understand it, though, going back to you, Clinton, is there was something wrong with the truck once somebody tried to drive it. What was the issue with the truck?
It would not go into gear. It would start and run, but it run rough, and didn't have no forward or reverse, and it was a 5-speed.
Okay, so something having the transmission or clutch, something like that.
Yes.
Okay. Is that something that, given your father's expertise, is that something that he could have fixed on his own, or was that something maybe a little above his pay grade? Is that something he would have had to have gotten fixed by somebody else?
Oh, no, he would have fixed it himself.
He could have fixed it himself. Okay. All right, so the truck was not in perfect running order. There was something wrong with it, something with the transmission, clutch, and I should ask you, for both of you, what did happen to this truck after the disappearance? Did it get fixed? Did you give it to somebody? Did you sell it? What did you do with the truck after this?
Actually, we had the cops, they was going to do their investigation. We asked them to run fingerprints, and they said, well, it'd been too long, it said too long, and all that stuff, to run the fingerprints. They impounded it, but they said that they was going to take it to their impound yard. No, they took it to Henrietta, another, now I say, 30 miles? 30 miles from Weleetka to Henrietta, Oklahoma, and never did run any fingerprints, never did follow up on it. And we had to get that out of the impound yard because it was costing money, and
Right.
If they wasn't going to do their investigation with the truck, we needed to get the truck home.
Right. I guess all I'm asking is, did you get the truck fixed, or what happened to the truck?
We haven't fixed the truck. It's still sitting out here.
Is it?
Started.
Wow.
We haven't got the transmission fixed.
Wow. So the truck is in the same condition as it was back in that time when he went missing?
Besides, we put different tires and wheels on it, yes.
Okay. All right. Wow. Okay, so the truck is still as it was, but have you had an expert look at it to really determine what it will take to fix it?
Yes, I have.
You haven't. And what's it probably need?
New transmission.
Does it?
My nephew, he started it there, and he actually pushed the clutch down, and it won't go into gear.
Okay.
Even when it shut off, it won't go into gear.
Okay. All right. So that would be the reason probably it was parked there. That doesn't mean, though, that Clinton Sr. parked it in the parking lot. Let's move on to this. Now, Mary, my understanding is that the outside of the truck looked rough. In fact, I had in my notes there were like twigs or gravel or something. Being that you saw it firsthand, what can you say about the exterior of the truck?
It looked like it had went off-road. Like through a field, through something. It had twigs in the underneath part of it. And whenever we got the truck back, going through the back of the truck, I actually found a pair of glasses that Dad wore. I compared to pictures that we had of Dad.
Yeah.
Those are his glasses.
Wow.
They were broken in half. And the cops never found those, so it tells me that they really didn't look through the vehicle at all.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And so what you're saying is that the eyeglasses, they were snapped in half and they were sitting in the bed of the truck.
Yep, underneath the toolbox that was in the bed of the truck.
Wow. All right. So the truck outside, of course, not running, engines running, but transmission is shot. But the exterior of it looks very rough. I'll move to you, Clinton. What about the interior? And maybe you just want to detail the things that were found inside the truck. What did the interior look like?
There was, for it to be unlocked, open the windows down whenever there was tools. There was brand new tools in there. There was a brand new torch set. A brand new welding helmet. There was valuable stuff in there. Even his checkbook was on the dash.
Huh.
And, for my dad to do that, that was a big no-no. He never did leave anything unlocked, windows down. That was his pet peeve. If it was unlocked, it needed to be locked.
Okay. So you said the truck was unlocked. Did you say one of the windows was down?
Yes.
Wow.
The driver's side window was down.
Driver's side window down. It wouldn't matter if it was locked or not. If the window's down. And you said medication in there, other things that he would usually have. All that in there.
So the medication that he got from the pharmacy in that town was still, was the medication in the truck or the house? The house.
The house.
Okay.
The house. Okay.
There
was medication in there, but it wasn't the new refilled bottles.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I was thinking.
Okay. What about his wallet and keys? What about the keys for the truck?
They were still left in the ignition.
Still in the ignition. And what about his wallet?
No.
Still missing. Okay. All right. Anything that you would say, once again, you two knowing your father, anything, of course, being that other than the truck being there with the window down for a week, anything unusual about the interior of the truck that really struck you as odd, maybe signs that possibly somebody else had been in it? Either of you can answer that. Anything in particular?
Not really.
Okay.
Just the only thing that was odd is the keys being there.
Sure. I agree.
And it wasn't just one key.
Mm-hmm.
It was
the key to everything. The gas tank lock, the toolbox lock, his house keys, his gate keys. It's a big thing of keys.
Okay. All right. And it was all still there. I guess what we're also saying, this must be, of course, the truck sitting there for everybody to see with the window down, all this valuable stuff in it, and maybe something got stolen, but a lot of valuable stuff was still in it.
Yes.
So I guess that shows just maybe what kind of town it is. People staying away from other people's stuff. Now, moving on to his cell phones. My understanding on Mary is that he had 2 cell phones or one, or what was the situation?
He had one cell phone that he used to make phone calls, and it was a flip phone. He had, and the other phone was, I had given him one whenever the first time his phone wasn't working, and I had to call the cell phone company and have it reset. I gave him a different one. It did work at one point. Like, it had service.
Okay.
But it was a smartphone, and Dad couldn't figure out how to use a smartphone.
Okay.
So therefore, I just canceled the service on it, but he kept the phone because he knew how to use the camera, just not how to make phone calls or any of that.
Okay.
So he used it as a camera.
Okay.
And we have that one.
And
but we do not have the flip phone. The flip phone is gone.
All right, so the flip phone is somewhere, and of course the wallet is still missing as well.
Yes.
Okay. And where was the other phone? The phone that wasn't working, that was just used for pictures, where was it found? Where was it?
In the pickup.
It was in the pickup too?
Yes.
Wow, just sitting there, like, I guess we might say in plain view? Or was it?
Just sitting it was in the visor.
Okay, up above the visor. All right, so not necessarily in plain view. All right. Window down, and all this valuable stuff sitting in there, and sat there seemingly for a week. That is something. All right. Regarding any sort of phone information, Clinton Jr., do we know anything about any pinging or any phone records, anything like that?
Yeah, we had sheriff's department. They pinged his phone, and the signal that was on that phone was at 7 o'clock. Sis.
Shit, I did not write any of that down, and I cannot remember, Bub.
Okay.
I want to say it was like 7 or 8 o'clock. That was the last known ping on it.
Okay.
But the phone records, the police station didn't want to go to the court and get that.
Okay.
To get the
They
phone
had to
records.
have some kind of subpoena to
Right.
subpoena his phone records,
And they didn't want to deal with that, I guess.
Okay. Now, you did tell me that Daryl tried calling him. You had a record of Daryl trying to call him one night. Is that right, Mary?
yes, Daryl went through his phone records
Oh,
or
I
his
gotcha.
call log,
Gotcha.
and he said the last time that I didn't write down if he talked to him, but the last time Daryl called him was 8/4 at 11:54 p.m.
All right,
so
so
I'm assuming they talked, or he wouldn't have told me that.
all right, so you believe that they did talk the night of August 4th. That's pretty late. That's almost into the early morning of August 5th.
That's what I just realized today. Back then, whenever all this happened, we were probably running on a couple of hours of sleep.
Of course.
Just mind going every which way. If I didn't write something down, I couldn't remember what happened.
Right.
Very emotional time.
Okay, so I guess what we're saying here is if Daryl spoke to your father at 11:54 p.m., so at night, almost midnight, then that would mean that the truck didn't the truck didn't get put there until August 5th or something.
Maybe.
Or
Okay.
later on in the night.
Yeah, into
It
the
would
next
have been
morning.
the
Yeah,
5th.
into the next morning of August 5th. Right. That's kind of.
I do know when I talked to Ruthie, she said it was late.
Okay.
It was after dark and it was late.
Okay, this is the woman who spoke to this witness.
Yes.
Okay, so maybe that all lines up. Daryl talks to him at late, and it very well could be. It's a cell phone. It very well could be that your father was out on the road somewhere while they were talking.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we don't know how long that phone call was or anything.
No.
Okay. Speaking of which, though, being that we just spoke of one witness, we have to talk about another witness. Was there a witness who saw that truck kind of sputtering back into town that day, that night, somewhere around that time? Clinton Jr., what do you know about this? So we have this witness who allegedly saw somebody park their car and walk off, but somebody saw the truck going into town or that night. What do you know about that?
Yes, I want to say after 4 o'clock, after my dad got back from the Dollar General from Weleetka. I guess he gotten into the Chevy, the 92, and went to Henrietta and went to AutoZone.
Okay.
We actually went through and got his statements in the mail, and I transferred all of his mail up here, and I got it, and I went through that date, and I seen the AutoZone on there at I think it was like 5:45, I do believe. And
of August 4th, just want to make sure we understand the dates. Of August 4th?
Yes.
August 4th, 5:45. Okay, please continue.
So he come, when you leave my dad's property, there's pretty much 2 ways you can go. One, it'll take you into Dustin. One will take you into Weleetka. And the road that you take out to Henrietta is the main highway. And he lives, you have to drive past his house, leaving or going.
Okay.
So he seen him, I spoke with him, and he said he seen him come back into town from Henrietta. He said the truck sounded good.
Okay.
Come in town and heard him like going outside of town to go back to his house. Then later on that evening, I mean, it was dark. It was probably, it gets dark out there probably about 9.
Right.
9.
It's August. Yeah. So it's going to be later.
It's dark. He said it was later. I couldn't tell me what time it was. But it come back in like he came back from Henrietta, so it had to go out a different way to come in from back into town.
And so when you say town, into town, what town do you mean?
Weleetka.
Okay.
It come like he was coming back from Henrietta again.
Okay.
But he said that truck didn't sound good, wasn't running good, and then it was at the church parking lot.
Okay.
It wasn't pulled in. It just kind of like rolled off the side of the road.
All right, like you would do if the transmission went out in your car. What kind of wherever it stopped rolling is where you're going to have to leave it.
Yep.
Okay. And so, in your opinion, once again, being that you know this area, I do not, in your opinion, Clinton Jr., when this person saw the truck sputtering or whatever it was doing, was it headed in the direction of where it was eventually found?
Yes. Okay. It was headed, I want to say it was headed, let me get my bearings here.
Okay.
I want to say it was headed west. It was headed west, so it was coming back into town.
All right. It was going back into the town of where it was eventually found. Okay. All right. And being that it was dark, I'm guessing this person did not notice who was driving?
No.
Okay.
No.
That is unfortunate. All right. Let's talk a little bit more about William Dinscore a little bit. Then we're going to talk about the police. We have just a few more topics here. What have you learned since then about Williams Dinscore? Good guy, bad guy, somewhere in between. Mary, you can answer this. What have you learned about him?
From what I've heard and what I've understand is his family gets in a lot of trouble.
Huh. Okay.
But other than that, I don't know.
Okay.
I honestly have no opinion of him. I don't like the man. He gives me the creeps, but...
Okay. That's understandable. I'm just wondering, to your knowledge, since this disappearance occurred, has William, to your knowledge, had any run-ins with the law, anything like that?
Not that I'm aware of. I know was it his brother?
Yeah.
That got in trouble?
Yeah.
His brother got in trouble.
All right. Okay, so listeners can think about that. Let's talk a little bit about the police. I don't think anybody's going to be surprised when you've both sounded very frustrated with the police, especially considering it seems that the truck sat in that parking lot for a week, right in plain view for everybody to see. It's 3.5 blocks away from the police, and they can't find the truck. Am I right, Mary? You're a little frustrated.
Yeah. Frustrated? Yes. Irritated? Beyond belief. The town of, I'm just going to tell you a little bit. The town of Weleetka.
Yeah.
We went and we were trying to search for Dad, as people do. Whenever your loved one goes missing, you're gonna search.
Sure.
We went to the house there in town that burnt. And we no more showed up. It was my husband, me, my son, and my mother-in-law. We no more than showed up, and we got surrounded by police officers telling us to leave. We were impeding an investigation. We had no right to be there. It became a screaming match. If I would have been smart, I would have just went to jail. We'd have got more attention. You know, family of missing person goes to jail for trying to search for missing loved one. They actually ended up following us out of town, made us leave town, told us that we couldn't be there. The city or the county of Hughes County wasn't no help at all. Just, I wish people would do more. The police, I think police departments need a special department for people to go missing.
Yeah, if
and
only.
how to talk to people, because they didn't care. They don't care. Your emotions are high. You're frustrated. You're just wanting to find answers, find out what happened. And for the city of Weleetka to come in and just start screaming at us, even went to the point of yelling at my middle son that he needs to have respect for him. And my middle son, being, I think he was 12 at the time, told him, just because you have a badge and a gun does not mean that I need to respect you. You are yelling at my mother when her father is missing. I don't need to respect you.
Why were they yelling at you? What was the main complaint that they had? As irrational as it might have been.
Just that we were impeding an investigation, and they did not want us on that property.
The property where the truck was found?
No, the property where the house burned.
Oh, the house burned.
We were going off of,
okay.
an area. What if he did get disoriented?
Right.
What if something happened?
Sure.
This is his place. Maybe he would feel comfortable going here, even though
Sure.
there's nothing left of the house.
Yeah.
Maybe he went there, and they wanted us off the property. They didn't want us in that town. They wanted us to leave.
Clinton Jr., did you ever get any explanation of how that truck could have sat there in plain view of everybody for a week and nobody noticed it? Nobody raised a flag. Nobody said, hey, this guy's missing. Here's his truck. Have you ever gotten an explanation for that?
No, I haven't. And when we called him and told him, hey, we found a truck. Well, where's it at? I was like, well, it's 3 blocks from you guys. And you guys been looking for this truck? And they said, well, thanks for the information. We'll go see what we can find. Every ounce of information that we gave the police station, we gave it to them. They didn't find it on their own.
Yeah.
I mean, if they was actually doing their job, they would have found the truck when the tag number was wrong. They would have found it. If they was actually doing their job like they're supposed to, they would have come across the truck. Hey, that's odd. And I'm at 3 blocks from the sheriff's department, and we had to call. We found it. We called. we just called around. We wasn't out there. We called over the phone and asked around, and they said the truck's been sitting there for a week, and they had all the information for a week. I mean, it don't take a rocket science to figure this stuff out. And every ounce of information that the police station ever got, it was from us over a phone call. What we found out, you know, we always turned it over to them, and you know, and for them to treat us like I'm sorry, but that's wrong, and you know.
Yeah, it's not like it's not like this truck was parked on some logging road that nobody's ever on, and it's not like it's like a very common vehicle. Like I drive a white Hyundai Sonata, has to be the most common car in the United States right now, and it's sitting in a Walmart parking lot, you know, where there's other cars there. This is a vehicle that it's in a church parking lot. We know that parking lot's only going to be filled maybe once or twice a week.
Yeah.
You know.
And for being in a small town, I mean, it's. I bet you there's only maybe I want to overshoot it, probably 600 people there.
Yeah.
In that town.
Small.
It's a small town, and the sheriff's department, they had. I think when we went in there was 3 or 4 cops there, just sitting in there. And it don't, for my opinion about the cops is when we did call out there to give them information, and they wouldn't take.
We were bothering them.
We wouldn't, you know. We called out there with information several times.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to talk to us. And to me, that's wrong. That is wrong. I wouldn't.
Of course.
I wouldn't move out there in that county and rely on them. The cops out there, I would not. I think it's because we're not from there and we're out of staters, you know. But still, my dad lived there. He paid the taxes. He paid, you know. I'm a little courtesy call every once in a while. I haven't heard from that sheriff's department in Hughes County over 2 years. They have never called us. They've never called us. And when we call out there, they get pissy at us because, you know, we're just calling to see how the case is going. And I think the last time I talked to a guy out there, and I called him and I called 3 times that day, and he answered the phone finally, and because I was trying to give him information. And I said, well, I can't just drive out there. I'm 12 hours from you guys. And I was like, you know what? I'll just keep my information that I got, and I will deal with it whenever I get out there. I will go to that certain somebody. Then whenever you get a call, because I'm out there questioning them, I don't want to. It's wrong.
Yeah.
It was wrong, and they shouldn't be that way.
Mary, if I can ask, what happened? You know, of course, it's been a few years now. What has happened to your father's property out there? Did you have to go get all that stuff that he had out there? What process was that? Of course, he was moving somewhere else. What can you say about all that?
We got in touch with a guy that knew my dad that dealt with junk cars and stuff like that. We just had most of the stuff scrapped off of his yard out there, so that way we didn't have to worry about who was doing what, who was doing, you know, where anything was going. Because, like Clint said, he lives pretty far away. I live pretty far away from that property. I live, I think it's 5 hours out there, 4.5, 5 hours. So just to get out there, it's an all-day event just to get there and back. So we just went ahead and had it all scrapped off of his yard, or off the property. The only thing we left out there was the camper that Dad was living in, and then that ended up getting stolen. So
you told me that. How did it get stolen? Do you know who did it?
Clinton, you can take that one because
Go ahead.
I don't remember the guy's name.
Go ahead, Clinton Jr.
His last name's Butler.
Okay.
And I got a couple of phone calls throughout it took him a long time to get it moved. Lived behind my dad's property.
Right.
He would send me pictures and stuff that the camper's getting moved. It's starting to get out to the end of the road. And actually, he called me one day, and I was free. I was watching my son's football practice, and he called me. And he goes, "Hey, there's a guy down there trying to get that camper out." And I said, "Well, just drive down there. Just drive down there to let me talk to him."
Mm-hmm.
So, and he gave me the phone, or gave the guy the phone, the Butler guy. And before he was on mute, he said, "What's up, bud? Long time no see," and gave him the phone.
Yeah.
And I talked to him. I told him, I said, "Hey, I don't think you want to do this, but you can just go ahead and unhook from the camper, leave it alone, or we'll have you arrested and come in for questioning."
Yeah.
Because my dad's missing and all that. And he knew it. And he knew. We had him charged for stealing a camper. We had to go out there and go to court, all that. We actually called out there again. I gave him all the information, where the camper was and all that, dropped a pin location, and the cops, they went out there, they arrested him, booked him in, booked him out. We had to go to court, and he actually got charged for theft, but he took a plea for drug court. He's got to complete the drug court. Mm-hmm. If he messes up, gets in trouble, he goes to prison for 10 years.
When did this all happen? When did this happen?
That was last year. It was probably late summer
of 2023.
Yeah. Yes.
Wow. All right.
And I talked to the guy and told him that they should have pulled him in for questioning to know how do you know my dad, how do you know my uncle, because he said, well, my uncle gave him the right to take it. The only uncle I got out there, he lives in Texas. My Uncle Kenny, he lives in Texas, Corpus Christi. And I asked my uncle about it. He goes, "I don't know any Butlers."
Of course not. Of course not. Of course not. I guess here's the thing, though. It's interesting to me, for both of you, that here was, of course, we talked about him early in this conversation where it sounds like he wanted your father gone and was doing some things to make that happen. And then you're actually communicating with him regarding the theft of the trailer.
Yeah. And
that is something.
I confronted him on the phone after my mind settled down and I got to thinking.
Yeah.
The last conversation we had, and you said, "What's up, bud? Long time no see." And I mentioned that to him. And he goes, "Well, I said, yes, you did. Plain as day, I heard it." And he goes, "You know what? Call me everything under the sun, but I'm a likable guy until that, but
I guess what I'm saying, Clinton and Mary, is that here, this guy was doing things, seemingly to harm your father's property because he wanted your father out of there. Your words. But on the other hand, he'll call you and tell you that a trailer's getting stolen off the property. He doesn't sound like the type of guy that would have done that.
Yeah, but he's a different person.
You don't say.
And he come up when all my sister's kids, my kids was out there. We went out there for a week trying to get my dad's place cleaned up.
Mm-hmm.
Before we got a hold of that guy to move everything off, he pulled up and pulled a knife. He was walking around with a big knife. But he's kind of a different guy. I don't know if he's got some problems upstairs or what, but.
All right, Mary, you haven't spoken here for a little bit, Mary. I'll ask you. So I have to ask, regarding neighbor, what's his alibi? Any idea what he was doing around August 4th, August 5th, when your father went missing? Any idea at all?
Have none. I don't know if the cops ever questioned any of the neighbors. I don't know if they talked to any of the neighbors.
Wow.
Every time we would try to talk to somebody, like in town, me and my sister-in-law was going door to door, we got told, hey, you don't want to do that. Just let us handle it. You go to the wrong door, it's not going to end up good, da-da-da-da-da. Mm-hmm. So we just quit trying to talk to people. We just letting the cops do their job. So as far as his alibi, I don't know. I don't know if he was in town. I don't know if he was home.
Okay.
The cops just would not let us talk to people.
All right, and of course we have to remember, although it does to you too, I don't know. I have to ask, being that you did end up talking to him, did either of you ever talk about your father's disappearance, and did he have anything to say about it?
Not that I never mentioned any.
Yeah, What about you, Clinton Jr.? When you, of course, were talking to him about this trailer that's getting stolen and everything, did your father's disappearance ever come up?
No.
Let's move on to this. I'll start with you, Mary. How hard, of course, it's obvious from both of your words and your emotions that you've shown in this interview today. Once again, we're doing this on June 23rd of 2024. How hard have the last almost 6 years been, Mary?
Hard. Very, very hard. There's not... Hang on.
Go ahead, take your time.
There's not a day that goes by that we don't think about it. If we see online that remains have been found,
yeah,
we go through a rabbit hole of, could it be? Is this the day we find out?
Yeah.
It is hard. It's been hard for everybody. It's one thing to know whenever your loved one dies what happened. It is another thing for it just to go on for years with no answers, no idea what happened. You can't put your mind at ease until you know what happened. You know where this person is at. All we want to know is, where he's at. We're going to lay him to rest so we can put our minds to ease. And
yeah. Clinton, I'll ask you the same question. How, the last almost 6 years, how tough? What have you been through?
It's been up and down, man.
Yeah.
Some days is good, some days is bad.
Yeah. I don't. Once again, I don't make my theories public or anything else, and very well maybe there could be foul play. Very well, somebody, if we believe this witness, somebody who was not your father parked the truck there. But I'm wondering. Let's just say I just need to ask once again, being that I don't live there, I don't know the area very well. Let's say that your father was in the truck late at night, has a transmission problem, drifts into this church. Is this a situation where you think he would have tried to call somebody? Or do you think maybe would he have actually tried to walk home, even though it sounds like that would be quite a distance? What do you think about that, Clinton Jr.? What, if that, your father, if that situation would have happened, what do you think your father would have done?
He would have called somebody. If he broke down on the side of the road and if he couldn't fix it right then and there, he'd call somebody.
Okay.
He would call whoever was around that, he would have called if they were good friends, if William was good friends as he said that they was good friends. My dad would have called William to come and get him.
Okay.
To take him home. I mean, he would, my dad, he was for being 71 years old, that old man, he was tough. I mean, but to walk, that hurt him the worst. I mean.
And I can give you one explanation.
Please.
Dad broke down one time on the way back from Dustin, going back to Spavinaw. And it was late at night, and nothing was open. That man slept in his truck, and it was, what was the town? What was that town? It was,
McAllister.
Yes, McAllister. He slept in his truck until morning, until he could get the parts for his truck to get it fixed. I had even offered, hey, Dad, I don't want you to sleep in your truck. There's a hotel right there. Just let me buy you a hotel for the night. He's like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not leaving my stuff in this truck by itself. It's loaded down. I'm not leaving my stuff. So he slept in his truck to make sure that nothing went missing.
Yeah. Okay. So what you're saying is
So if it would have been too late and he couldn't get the truck fixed or get a ride, he'd have slept there until the next morning.
Right.
Until somebody could come get him.
He would have hauled it home that night.
Yep.
Okay. Do you have a Facebook page, website, anything like that set up for your father's disappearance? If so, why don't you tell the listeners about it right now?
Yes, we have a Facebook page. It's Finding Clinton Robert Thomas. We do updates every once in a while. We would appreciate if anybody has any information. Go on there and send us a message anonymously. No questions asked. We just want information on how to find him.
Okay.
Okay,
why don't you say that name and then the name of the page one more time, Mary, please.
Finding Clinton Robert Thomas.
Okay, very good. I'll let you go first, Clinton Jr. Any final words before we complete this interview?
Final words. If y'all have any information on the small town stock, just get on the Facebook page. Let us know. That's not hard. It's hard for us, but just let us know. If anybody knew my dad, knew how he was, he'd help you out. Just help us out.
And Mary, same question. Any final words before we complete this interview?
Just the same. No detail is too small. If you know anything, please let us know. If you have a good story, if you knew Dad, and you have a good story, send it to us. We'd love to hear it. We'd love to have a laugh.
Yeah. It just seems to me, being right there in the middle of the town, if it was he, you'd think somebody would have seen him, like, trying to walk home or something.
Yeah, he would have called. He wouldn't have walked.
Okay.
He would have, or he would have stayed there until morning. There is no way he would have walked. He would have called Daryl. He would have called, somebody would have knew what was going on. He would have called William. He would have went to that guy's house. It was right down, or he would have called that guy right down the road. There was friends in that town. I forget the guy's name. I didn't write it down. But there was a friend that was right down the road. He would have called them. There's no way he would have walked. And if he would have walked, we would have found him whenever we went out there with the search dogs. We would have found him from there to his property. We did that walk. It was miserable.
Yeah.
But we did it. And the dogs hit on nothing.
Okay. Clinton Jr. and Mary, I appreciate you both appearing on this episode of Unfound.
Thank you for having us.
You're very welcome. And that was my June 23rd, 2024 interview with two of Clinton's children, Mary and Clinton Jr. I thank them both for joining me and all of you on this episode. I also need to thank Assistant Emily, who made the interviewing of Mary and Clinton Jr. possible. Due to all the locations mentioned in the interview, Dustin, Weleetka, the church, Clinton's home, etc., I have made a video that you can now find on Unfound's YouTube channel. I know many of you do not watch these videos, but you should. They are important, so please give them a chance. There are three main points I need to make about the interview. But first, there are some things I need to clean up before I get into my summation. To start, after the interview, Mary decided that the time that Daryl called Clinton on August 4th was not 11:54 p.m., but 11:54 a.m. So Daryl called Clinton near noon and not near midnight. Second, you obviously noticed some volume drop-offs. The reason for this is that we used a certain person's name in the interview. However, once I listened to the talk after, I decided that we may not have treated this person fairly. The fact is that this person was never charged with anything, despite the belief that he committed acts that were illegal. Yet, we only have Clinton Sr.'s word on the topic, and he is not here to ask him directly. So the person's name got deleted. However, you are certainly allowed to consider this unnamed person a suspect in Clinton's disappearance. Third, and this is the final cleanup, during the interview, Mary, Clinton Jr., and I discussed the talk I had with Daryl, one of Clinton Sr.'s best friends. However, given some of the topics covered, I deleted the entire section in this episode's interview. I just felt the three of us got into a talk that was inappropriate. My fault, not Mary's and Clinton Jr.'s. So now I will tell you what Daryl said when I spoke to him a couple weeks ago. Mary and Clinton Jr. already have the following information. What Daryl told me. And I preface all of this by saying that it's very possible that Daryl knew some of these points back in 2018, but has since forgotten them. Daryl did not know anything about the trade Clinton was making. However, Daryl knew Clinton to be trading in vehicles and other things all the time, and he did not know what happened to the Jeep or the dune buggy. Daryl had never heard of William Dinscore before the disappearance. Clinton had never mentioned William to Daryl. Daryl did not know of any threats against Clinton. Clinton never mentioned anyone. Daryl did not know about the burning of Clinton's property. Seemingly, Clinton never mentioned this to Daryl. Daryl says the gate to Clinton's place was closed when he got there. Daryl had lots of theories about addicts harming Clinton. He, however, admitted there is no proof of this, and Clinton never mentioned any problems with anyone. In addition, Daryl admitted that he thought an addict would steal stuff in the process of harming Clinton, which did not happen given that all those valuables were left in Clinton's truck. Daryl did not know about Clinton moving. Daryl did not know that someone was allegedly seen leaving the truck and walking away. Daryl did not know Clinton to ever go to that church. However, Daryl thought of that place as being more of a place for poor people to get food than as a church. Daryl was very dismissive of the police. Daryl did not know specifically what was wrong with the truck when it was found at the church. That concludes the notes I took from my talk with Daryl. I realized that him not knowing some of the points about Clinton's life could be seen as suspicious. However, I do not believe this to be so, given what I know about Daryl. I think he told me the truth, and that he has no idea what happened to Clinton. Okay, now, finally, my summation. Here are the 3 points you need to keep in mind when analyzing Clinton's disappearance. Point number 1, the truck was not ditched. It just couldn't be driven any farther. But yes, somebody might have had plans to put it in a lake or something. All we can surely say is, no matter if Clinton or someone else was driving the truck, the person's ultimate goal was surely not to leave it there. The truck's mechanical failure caused that person to leave it there. Point number 2, eyewitness accounts are the worst of all evidence, if evidence at all. And in Clinton's disappearance, his family got the story from someone who got the story from someone else, of a guy who did not look similar to Clinton walking away from the truck. So, I'm dubious. I'm not saying someone who wasn't Clinton could not have broken down in his truck at that point. What I'm saying is I'll ponder it, but this third-party story holds no value to me. Point number 3. Do not live in the prison of common sense. What I mean is, yes, there is no way to logically get to the idea of Clinton possibly deciding to walk home. Thus, you may reject it. However, we have covered much crazier yet true choices by missing people on Unfound. Yes, I agree with anyone who would say Clinton would never do that in his right mind. The problem, we don't know he was in his right mind. As for the police not noticing Clinton's truck for all that time, I think we've gotten to a point where many of us, myself included, know that if we traded places with them, the investigations of disappearances would be a lot better. If you'd like to hear and read more of my in-depth analysis into the disappearance of Clinton Thomas Sr., please go to patreon.com/Unfound Podcast, sign up, and partake in the Unfound blog. Until then, I leave the public theorizing up to you. And that's the program. Right now, while you are in your podcast platform, Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, wherever, give Unfound a 5-star review, a thumbs up, whatever that platform allows. I thank you for listening. I'm Ed Densel, and you've just finished this episode of Unfound.